Well, folks, the Democrat Party is in complete disarray. They have the lowest approval rating as a party that they have seen in decades, with roughly a quarter of Americans approving of the party. Only a quarter of Americans. And as of now, the only leaders the party has is Bernie Sanders and AOC. That sounds like a complete disaster for the Democrat Party. Which brings us to a very interesting topic for the 2028 presidential election. Stephen A. Smith is now being considered by some Democrats to be a 2028 presidential contender. That is how low this party has dropped at this point. It is insane. Now, we know Stephen A. Smith is a commentator on ESPN. He's the host of the show First Take, and he recently signed, I think, about a roughly $100 million deal with ESPN, which makes him one of the most highest paid personalities on air, period, let alone in the sports industry. Now, although he's a sports analyst, he has no problem crossing over into political and social topics. And recently, he has said that, quote, he has no choice but to consider running for president in 2028. No choice but to consider running. But then decided to backtrack a couple days later, saying that the only reason his comments around running in 2028 took off is because the Democrat Party and Democrats in general don't have a serious candidate that could actually run in 28. He said, quote, that is why Stephen A. Smith is in the news, because y'all don't have anybody. Who you got? Who you got? Kamala Harris better not run. She better not run. She's not going to win the presidency in 2028. Keep in mind, I have respect for her, but I'm not going to disrespect the former vice president of the United States. I will never do that, but we got to be real about something here. When she ran for her own election, she couldn't make it past Iowa in 2020. She ultimately positioned herself to and gets the vice presidency. They win the 2020 election. Joe Biden is feeling himself after the liberals won the midterms, and instead of being a transitional president like he promised, the man backstabbed the Democrat Party and turned around and said, "I'm staying in," and that's what happened. He clearly has no filter and has no problem speaking his mind on this. He's not afraid to say what he thinks and what he feels. And now, although the Democrats have jumped on this idea, he did have a lot to say about it, claiming that he's a centrist and he supports many policies of the GOP, but ultimately, if he were to run, he would run as a Democrat, really clinging to the idea of being a Clinton-Gingrich Democrat. Like that, those are his words, not mine. A Clinton Democrat or Clinton-Gingrich Democrat. Kind of, he supports deporting illegal aliens. He supports having strong police presence in the inner cities. But at the end of the day, the guy's a Democrat. And what's wild is there was a poll that came out. This is a poll from McLaughlin from January that showed Stephen A. Smith was coming in around 2%. And they had done some head-to-head polling on him, too, and showed that he was within 10 points of most Democrat presidential contenders in a head-to-head matchup in the primary, which ultimately probably wouldn't happen, but it's still something you have to consider. There are people out there who want this guy, which is kind of wild. And I feel like a lot of Democrats can relate to Stephen A. Smith simply because he's criticizing the party for being weak and pathetic. Because that's what they are. They are weak and pathetic right now. They got absolutely humiliated in the 2024 election. And Stephen A. Smith has no problem pointing out that they have no leader. They have no clear vision for the future. They have no one who's going to lead them to the future. And ultimately, at this point, any buzz that gets brought up around his name is solely, it's about name recognition and willing to call out the Democrat Party for the terrible state the party is in right now. Ultimately, that doesn't take a lot to call out the Democrat Party because there's a lot to call them out on. So it's not really saying a lot, but there's a lot of people who are actually considering him to be a candidate. And I think he said himself that he has no choice but to seriously consider it, but says that there would be a lot of things that have to line up if he were to run in 2028. That it's like, obviously, with anybody, a lot of things have to line up if you're going to make a huge jump like this. But ultimately, he's someone who's on the left side of the aisle. He's very popular in the sports commentary world. And he has no problem calling out the Democrat Party for how pathetic they are, for the lowest approval rating we've seen in decades, to show that they have no leader. They have no clear vision for the future. And I think a lot of Democrats resonate with that. If you have a quarter of Americans that disapprove, or 3/4 of Americans that disapprove of the Democrat Party, that means you have at least half or 60% of Democrats disapprove of the Democrat Party. There's a lot of Democrats who do not feel that the Democrat Party represents their interests, that they don't feel in lockstep or in line with them anymore. And Stephen A. Smith calling them out, doing what he seems to do best right now, is obviously resonating with a lot of people. And Smith has even admitted the obvious. The very obvious in this is he's not a politician, and he never has been. And frankly, according to him, or so he says, he doesn't want to be. Now, how much do I believe he doesn't want to be? I don't know. I don't think you start talking like this unless you have some sort of ambition. But he's argued that the very, very low competitiveness in the Democrat Party primary, the 2028 presidential primary right now, shows that he could be competitive. And the weakness of the candidates who could run against him, they're just so weak. He says he could beat all of them, including Walz, Harris, Buttigieg, Newsom. He went after all of them. That he could beat them all. And you think he would be more of that Trumpy figure, if you think about it. He would be more that Trump-esque figure. No political experience, and you really are trying to turn this following that you have from being on TV into loyal supporters. You're trying to turn this image that people perceive you to be on TV into a political campaign almost, if you could say. Because he does have a number of strengths. He has a massive platform. At the end of the day, you cannot discount how massive of a platform this guy has. He has millions and millions and millions of people that listen to him every week. He's been on camera for a huge portion of his life. He's a journalist, and he's very comfortable on camera. It's not like he's weird on camera, he's shy on camera. He's very comfortable on camera. He knows how to have a debate on live TV, and he doesn't shy away from topics, which I think would be huge because a lot of it is imaging. A lot of it has to do with perception when you get on a debate stage with the Democrats. You could see him playing kind of the role that, like a Tulsi Gabbard played in 2020, where she went out there basically as this wrecking ball candidate, and I guess she probably was a serious candidate, but everybody has to take it with a grain of salt and be realistic about it. But he could go in there and really just go after these Democrats because he has nobody's lying in his pockets as of yet. Nobody's lying in his pockets to tell him what to say. He can say what he wants. He can be a wrecking ball for whoever he wants. He doesn't care. He's probably still going to have the same amount of support in the sports commentary industry afterwards as he does right now, and probably will even have more. And like we said, as an outsider, he could really try and run on that same idea that Trump ran on, convert in that mass audience that he has into loyal political supporters and using that celebrity status to elevate himself, turning that image that's been created on TV, online, into a political campaign. But as of right now, it seems that Smith is just entertaining the idea of running and really has no serious plans of running. He's talked about how he would need to get all of his finances in order, a lot of different things that would need to happen, and he would need to fundraise heavily in order to do that. It's not cheap to have a political campaign. You look, Kamala Harris spent 107 days, she spent $1.5 billion. Like, it ain't cheap. But this is the real question. How far does the Democrat Party have to go? How far do they have to go to get completely annihilated in 2028? How far do they have to go? Like, seriously. How far will this party need to go? When will they stop? They didn't stop pushing at gender reassignment surgeries for children. They didn't stop at pushing for millions of illegal immigrants to flood across our border every single year. They didn't stop at nominating the most unpopular vice president in the history of the country, even when basically the puppet master, Barack Obama, we know from the new book Fight that just came out, saying that he didn't want Kamala Harris. He wanted an open primary at the convention. He did not want Kamala Harris to have that nomination. And it sounds like Kamala Harris had to beg Joe Biden for the endorsement. Like how far do you have to go? Like, I genuinely do not know how far this party will have to go. And by the looks of it, they are not slowing down on the same policies and ideas that allowed Donald Trump to be elected in 2016 and 2024. They show no signs of stopping what they're doing. Going down the absolute crazy. It's like latching on to some of these horrible ideas that are horribly unpopular. Just terrible policies. I don't know how any political analyst could look at them and say, yes, gender reassignment surgeries for children, that's a winning message. Millions of illegal immigrants, yep, that's a winning message. Like, honest to God, who is telling them that these are good messages? Are their pockets just lined? Are they just being paid? Are they just bought and sold? Like that's a realistic option. Does Big Pharma are they in their pocket? That could be a realistic option. But when you're at a 25% approval rating nationwide, you got to do something different. And I'm not here to give the Democrats any advice or any help because I don't want them to get better. But ultimately, it's just like, my gosh, how far do you have to go? And I think they're really going to start to hit a wall here soon. And I think we're going to see. the 2028 election is still a long ways away. We still have a long ways to go for the 2028 presidential election. That's even further, but look at the 2028 Democrat primaries. You're still over 2 years away from that. You still have a long ways to go, and a lot could change between now and then. But ultimately, you look at the party, you look at the polling. Let's look at the 2028 presidential election. Okay, here's the reality. Kamala Harris, yes, does she have a lead in most of this polling here? But this isn't like some sort of command and lead. The whole country knows who you are. You were the vice president. You ran in 2020. You were the nominee in 24 for 3.5 months. And you're only a quarter of Democrats say they want you. You look back to like 2012, 2013, 2024. Hillary Clinton was leading these polls by 40 or 50 points. She does not have this command and lead out of the gate that she maybe once had. And look at this. There was 2 recent polls that came out, and I believe this Data for Progress was one that did not include Kamala Harris in it. It was anyone but Kamala Harris. But look at this. You have this Atlas Intel poll. Pete Buttigieg leading the party here. So it's like Kamala is not going to be a formidable candidate in 2028. Everyone most likely has an opinion on her, and only a quarter of Democrats say they want her. Okay, wait till serious campaigns are being pushed by Buttigieg, by AOC, by Gavin Newsom, by Whitmer, by Tim Walz. Wait for the serious campaigning to start happening and watch this number absolutely disappear. It's going to vanish into thin air. That's where we're at right now. But the Democrat Party seems very that they want to keep going in one direction. The party may not want to go in that direction. The people may not want to go in that direction, but that's where leadership is going. So let me know your thoughts down below. What are your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith running for president in 2028? Let me know. Drop down below. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future, and we will catch you next time, folks.